Okay, greetings and welcome from TBILISI. My second time today. I was on early this morning, which was late night for many of you, or later in the evening. And now it is 10 o'clock at night for me, and I'm here one more time. I just got a notice that I am running out of my StreamYard hours. I have another 12 left, so it's like 6 different times. Hopefully, I can wrap this up before then. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Otherwise, I'll have to wait until I believe it's the 24th when it gets my hours get renewed again. But anyway, greetings. Anyone want to identify themselves out there? If you do, please do so. Yeah, I've decided it's just going to be Georgian music tonight, and I have so many different kinds. Many of these things will be coming from this collection. There was a book put out here in Georgia that was partly in English, and of course it was all in Georgian as well. But they had with it 4 CDs no, 4 DVDs rather of Georgian music, and that piece we just saw there was from the area called Samagrelo, or they were Mangrulian singers. And literally, it is a different variation on a Caucasian language. And they also speak Georgian as well. But what I like about that song is they imitate dogs and cats. I noticed there was a weird bit of lagging going on there. I don't know what that was. But hey, just such is life. Maybe you didn't experience it the way I did. But yeah. So what's the point of being here? Oh, yeah, to collect money so that I can get my massive 12,000 pound, I don't know exactly, it could be much more, I don't know, 12,000 pound, 6,000 kilo library from Alaska all the way to TBILISI, Georgia, where I live now. And I was just thinking about this today, and there's something about it that gives me just a slight amount of vertigo. It's just like, really, am I going to do this? I was in one of the local stores and talking to a girl who was serving some pastries, and I'd been talking to her and some of the people she works with, and I told them that yeah, I'm still collecting money. Fortunately, I said, but when I'm done, the real work begins. And they said, they looked at me. They realized it was tough just talking all the time, trying to raise money. But that's really true. The real stuff begins. And I'm sitting there going like, oh, what's this going to be like? There's so many ifs, so many variables. And I mean, right now, just looking for tickets is kind of a crazy thing to do. So, yeah, life. And maybe the tickets I saw yesterday will have vanished. But I'll do that. I don't think I'll have the energy tonight. First thing in the morning. So, what do we got? Well, we got more Georgian music. And the thing to remember about the Georgian music you hear is that for every gift donation of $50, I'll send you 50 files. If you give me $100, I have packets of 50 files. So every $50, 150, I've got up to 200 4 packets with 50 files each in them. And Georgian music is extremely hard to come by anywhere but Georgia. And even here, it's not like I can say, oh, yeah, I know how you can find this record here. Go down to the store and they'll have a copy of it. It doesn't work that way. There are very few CDs left here. There were more when I first arrived in 2016. But unfortunately, the dematerialization of the world is happening in some ways quicker here because they skipped, after the Soviet Union, they skipped this whole thing. They just went straight to the internet rather than, having, there's one vinyl store here that sells stuff for electronic dance DJs. And they have some jazz and a little bit of other stuff there, but that's it. It's not much by my lights, and so many of these discs are just there as tools rather than to be set around and listened to. So there was a guy named Kenneth Grant who sent us another $30. So the total now, what we need is $1,719. We're getting better. Oh, I wish it would all come today so I could stop. This does get tiring, just coming on and on. And you never know what's going to happen. I've had some very good nights. I've had at least one time snake eyes, not one time. That was when I experimented trying on my Gravity from Above channel. But that's you just have to do it. And I am glad. I've tried to put the notices out on my various, Facebook and Twitter sites and such. But like I said, I don't think Facebook is what it once was. They used to provide, I used to get more money from my Facebook page. But part of it is, it's been 5 years. It's been about 3 years since I did my last fundraiser to try to get the first half of this whole thing, which was to have a place to put everything. But I've been here 5 years now. So that means the relationships that I had, for instance, back in Alaska have faded. Not that, and things have changed. I don't want to go into any specific details, but that's just how life goes. And then I have friends from New York City, friends from the puppet world. But the friends from the puppet world aren't. They're like occasional colleagues, people I see now and then, and I'm glad to see them. They're not the kind of people who are going to contribute to me. I've got others, people from the past. I am really grateful to you folks, because without your support, where would I be? I do not make much money at all here. I've in fact been losing money as far as people donating. More, in the last week, another person has stopped being a regular contributor. Times are changing. So what can I do? This is what I'm doing. So let's play another Georgian piece of music while we see if we can get someone else to contribute. what kind? Let's not do another group quite yet. Here is Trio Mandili. I've played them before, particularly there's one piece, Psalm 50 they do, which they do in one of the Orthodox churches. But this next piece is the kind of video they became kind of well known for. And the name of the song is Kahuri. And it's them just walking along and singing. And they've got a wonderful presence, and they're very charismatic. And they sing really well, and it's kind of cool them just walking around singing. So Trio Mandili. We'll be back soon. It would be nice to see a contribution come in. I really like the burro there that they're dragging along with them. I think that kind of makes it very, very. It's Georgia. What can I tell you? And who's out there? Anybody? Let me know. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. And I am here till we'll go till 12. Near 12 tonight, my time. So another hour and 45 minutes of me trying to come up with things to say, which isn't hard, but yeah, I'd much rather. Okay, Michael, you are there. I am so happy to see that. One of the things I'm going to show you is a few different Georgian musical styles here. And the nice thing about this collection that I have, of course, the book is actually back in Alaska because I picked it up in 2018, early 2018. No, actually, I picked it up in 2016 because if it's back in Alaska, I did not bring it with me here. But the interesting thing is it gives groups from all the different parts of Georgia, and almost everyone is in the traditional clothing from that culture. But you'll see that there are some very different kinds of styles. So for instance, in the area of Kaheti, they sing with like a drone. The guys just go, ooh, and then they sing over it in either one or two parts. Then in Guria, which we will hear a Gurian piece that I recorded from the Irisioni ensemble, they do yodeling, and they do it in multi-parts, this unusual stuff. And we heard the Megrelian piece early, and that was kind of funny. And the funny thing is, Megrelians are kind of, many other Georgians kind of look at them in a kind of odd sort of way. I can't really put my finger on how. Am I willing to take guests? Absolutely, Michael. You want to come on? You have the thing, Luigi. You're welcome to come on too. Let me give you write to me, and I will turn around and send you the link for this specific show. So, Hive Mind Merge. The whole train is coming over here, Bern. Nice. Greetings to Georgia from Oklahoma. Where are all these people coming from? Oh, Paul Vanderclay. So if anybody wants to come on, just send me an email at the following address. I'll only take, let's just say, up to 2 at a time, because I think beyond that, I don't have the kind of abilities Paul does to handle like a whole embankment of people. So let me give you, this is the address. Write to me, send me a note, and I will turn around and send you. So Grimm's live stream. Interesting. So let me tell you where we are in our fundraising, since I have the hordes are arriving. The goal is actually, let me give you the other camera here. The goal is to have $12,000. If this looks chaotic, it is. To get $12,000. $6,000 is for the freighter. We've got that. Then there's a barge that has to go from Haines, Alaska, all the way down the coast, 1,000 miles to Seattle. $2,000 or so for that. We've got that. Then a truck, train, and customs, all of which the customs in particular is like a wild card here. But anyway, that I figured that as $2,000. And now we're working on the airplane tickets, $2,000. And we only have to finish this whole thing off, basically, or at least get to the goal. There's a little cleaning up at the end because of all the things that PayPal and GoFundMe take out. But to get to the goal, we only need 1,719 American dollars to get there. So there we are. And again, there is the thing. Okay, we've got one person who wants to, burn the big broadcast. Okay, here we are. Okay, Michael, I am sending you your link, but it is not a sausage link. So there's that one. Okay, if anyone else wants to come on, I would take two more. So, so hey, Paul, how you doing? It's good to see you here. Wednesday morning, I guess. So, and Grizz is there, and Kale is there. That's nice. And I'm playing Georgian music, so let me play a little bit more Georgian music. I brought nothing but Georgian music for this one. And write that Reckoning Motions at yahoo.com. I'm going to scrub that pretty soon. But meanwhile, here is some footage that I took from my journeys. And this is with the ensemble Erisioni. And this is Gurian Polyphony. Guria is a place, one of the areas of it's its own autonomous little zone, and they have a very unique polyphonic style, and we'll hear some of that here, and then I'll bring Michael in, and it looks like we got someone else who wants to do something here, so we'll see what goes on. Here's Okay, pretty great music. Well, we've got a couple of folks hanging, waiting to come on here. Michael and Caleb, let's bring them on. But we've also got a contribution, so we're going to have to do what Grim Grizz wants, and that is to go to the big board here in a moment. Actually, guys, I'll be with you in 1 second. Just a moment. Let me go up to the big board and put this up, and then I won't have to worry about it because it's not as convenient when there's other people. Okay, Riz, are you happy? So we got Nathaniel Franco gave us $50. Where am I going? Nathaniel, $50. I believe you're double dipping. Is this what I am to understand? So that means, oh man, mathematics. Okay, so 16, 69, is that right? Yeah, I think so. So we need $1,669 to get to the $12,000 mark. So wow, thanks. So now I will go to the guys here and let's do this. Is this working? Let's do this one. Okay. Caleb, are you Professor Luigi? Who is Professor Luigi? Or are you just Caleb? Do I not ever talk to you under another name?
You can talk to me under another name, but I will be purposely obtuse about it, even though it's probably really easy. Yes.
Swell. And Mike, you've been kind of like following this whole thing and throwing in little drips of cash, which is pretty cool. And your mother has been a saint. I'm really amazed by how much stuff you've been listening to, because you're saying like, oh, I know that one and I know that one. Yeah. Hold on 1 second here.
Yeah, sure.
Something else is happening. We'll see what's going on. Oh, someone else must want me to go do the board thing. I'm not forgetting you guys. $33. Well, that's a random amount. David Wells. Okay, from Oklahoma. And hold on, David. Sorry, guys. I'm going to do this one more time. And if they keep interrupting me, this is the purpose of the thing. Remember what we were saying, which is to say introductions. So, $33. Oh, my goodness. Okay, let me start over here. David W. 33 US dollars. And, okay, so then it's now, okay, that's 6. Okay, 3. Okay, $1,636. Cool. Okay, let's get out of this again and get back to the guys.
The boys.
All right. So, Michael, where are you?
You're muted.
The classics mistake, yes.
Yeah.
Being
where
muted.
are you? Where do you live?
Detroit.
Detroit. Okay.
Yes.
Like Hamtramck or
no, not Detroit. Like the western suburbs of Detroit.
Yeah.
Not really.
I somehow doubt you're right in the middle of Detroit.
Yeah. Yeah, not likely. No. I mean, that's where my family comes. That's where they all moved from.
Right. I think I asked you this before when you were a blank screen.
Yes.
You came once as a blank screen, so you remained this mythological creature.
Yeah, basically.
So, and Caleb, where are you?
I'm currently in the far-off exotic land of Indiana.
Indiana. What part? North or south? Middle?
The middle.
Middle. Okay. You want to be a little cagey. I get it. we have internet anonymity to protect here. So
Terrible. I know where you live, Vern, so only fair, right?
Yeah, I live in TBILISI, Georgia, to which I would say you may know where I live, but you don't actually know where I live. It's hard to come up with a picture of it, except for whatever I painted for you as you've been visiting. So, Caleb, I know you less. What kind of things do you do with your life?
Well, not a whole lot, honestly. I mean, I have a job.
Mm-hmm.
I play music. That's what I do with my life.
I get where we're going here. You live somewhere in the Midwest. You have a job. We're not sure what your actual moniker is. So
I am technically filming from my place of employment, but the office is unusually quiet today because everybody's off on a purpose.
Nice. So, Michael, what do you do in the Detroit area?
Well, I'm still working that one out, as it turns out.
Right. Obviously, you spend far too much time listening to my content.
Well, I guess that's part of it is I spend a lot of my time studying and thinking.
Right.
So, yeah.
Are you interested in? I know you're interested in film, and you're probably interested in music. Am I right in suggesting these?
Music more than film, even, but I love film as well.
Okay. Do you play an instrument?
Not really. I dabbled in piano when I was a kid, but the problem was we had an electric piano, one of those digital things, and they have a bunch of like little music tracks. I always prefer to listen to the little tracks on the piano than actually study and learn to play. So that kind of showed where I was going to end up.
Just like my piano experience.
Yeah, exactly.
So you kind of drift around my channel because you like all the weird historical stuff to talk about.
Yes, it just kind of goes hand in glove with everything that interests me, pretty much.
Very good, very good. You seem like you would be a good candidate to go to the Swiss Labrie. Just saying.
I have seriously thought about that, actually.
Yeah.
I seriously thought about it. If the pandemic had not intervened, I might have already gone there. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we're definitely in unusual times, but my feeling is unusual times. Things are fluid, which means there are new possibilities. Things that were locked up a few years ago are now open. Yeah, and the world may go to hell, but it was the worst of times. It was the best of times. It's just like when things get strange. Like for me, one of the best periods was the 1970s in my life. And the reason for that, it was actually a very dark time. The movies were dark. There was a lot of dark music. Punk rock started at that time. Metal was just really cranking up. Horror films were like pitch dark then. And a lot of what people remember about the 80s is more of almost a regimentation, a formalization of horror films. But in the 70s, nobody knew what the rules were. How much sex could you show in a movie? All of this stuff. So there's crazy stuff that happens then. Completely politically incorrect by pretty much everyone's standards today. However, it was during that same time, for instance, as a Christian, I look and I go like, gosh, a lot of interesting thought and movements were going on then. That was like the heyday of Labrie. People were just starting to say, hey, maybe Christians should do something like art. It had been so buried by things. So before I go off on what I usually talk about, do either of you have questions or thoughts, or what do you want to say? Why are you here? Justify your existence.
Actually, I do have some questions. I don't know if Caleb does, though.
I do have a few, but Michael, you go ahead.
Well, I don't know. I asked tons of questions last night, so.
Okay, Caleb.
You actually were on last night. I didn't see. I was listening. I fell asleep before the end of the stream, and then it was just over by the time I woke up.
Yeah, I almost did too. So. Not really. I don't fall asleep during these. But no, it was this morning.
Or fall asleep live on stream. What a great entertainer he is.
Yeah. So, what did you want to ask? What did you want to talk about?
Well, I had a question. What's your favorite kind of music, or what Well, no, what is your favorite kind of museum, and what museums
Oh,
of that
museum.
kind do you think are the best?
I thought you were about to ask me the dreaded, what kind of music do you like the best, Bern? I'm sitting there, I've got like 13,000 discs of various sorts.
Yeah,
It's kind of hard to answer that question.
yeah,
I can
all of
come
it.
up with answers. But as far as museums goes, now that's interesting to me because it's not something that I get asked all the time. By the way, just a reminder to everyone, what we're doing here is collecting funds. We've got $1,636 to go till we get to the $12,000 goal. So we're doing well. Meanwhile, back at this. Okay, museums. Well, of course, I like puppet museums. And my favorite 3 in Europe that I have seen so far, number 3 would be the Czech Puppet Museum in the town of Chrudim, which is spelled Chrudim. Really good examination of Czech puppet history. The next one would be the Gdańsk Museum, it's spelled like Gadagna, in Lyon, which not only it has half of it dedicated to puppets and the other half dedicated to other things related to the city of Lyon. But the puppet stuff there's some really unusual puppets. There's one puppet I really like where there's a puppet holding a puppet on a string, holding a third puppet on a string, which to me is like amazing. And my number 1 is the Pascal, I want to say Aquiliano, it's similar to that, museum in Pasqualino. Oh, okay. Anyway, it's the Puppet Museum in Palermo in Sicily. And it's got so many of these really old Sicilian marionettes, which are about 1/3 human height and pretty fascinating. So museum-wise, those are, plus Palermo has, besides museums, I really like ossuaries. Do you know what ossuaries are?
Yes, yes.
Bone reliquariums. And they have the best. And the Paris catacombs are really good. The church at Kutna Hora in the Czech Republic is just entirely decorated in bones. There is a bone house in the town of Hallstatt in Austria, and there's quite a few others. And so, but in Palermo, there is the Capuchin Monastery, which for some reason or another, I guess it started where there were a few of the Christian brothers, the monks, who asked to be they were just left to dry and hung on the side of a wall. And it caught on. And eventually people, there's literally thousands of people in this place hanging on the wall, not just the bones, but the dried humans. But it's one of the most, I think, spiritual places I've ever been. I mean, and spooky, because you're looking at faces of people who have long since departed, because they stopped doing it about 100 years ago or so. And sometimes you look and go like, oh my gosh, that was a beautiful woman. And you can see just the way the skin recedes on the face and such, and this dry texture. Another time, some faces look like, the indignity of this, my life and such, Then there's a few children. It's just a very, very beautiful but spooky place. It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
So that would be one of my top places in Europe that's like a museum.
Yeah.
In Paris, they have a lot of very odd little museums that most people don't get to. So I think I think you asked, did you ask this yesterday? Was this you? Someone asked me some stuff. But anyway, in Paris, someone was saying we're interesting museums in Paris. Well, and here's what I would say. Do not go to the 2 huge museums, the Louvre and the Gare d'Orsay, the Musée d'Orsay, unless you're there during a particularly rainy December or something. And even then, don't go on the free day because everyone else will be lined up. And, seeing things like the Mona Lisa and Jerry Cole's Raft of the Medusa and all this other stuff in there, you know, the Venus and de Milo and all this other, these other amazing works, surrounded by thousands of people. Literally, I have a video, I don't know if you've seen it, of just my experience with the Mona Lisa. And I didn't go in that day to take pictures of the Mona Lisa. I went in there to take pictures of the people taking pictures of the Mona Lisa. It's just like everyone was doing selfies in front of the Mona Lisa. So it's like they want to say I was alone with the Mona Lisa. They weren't. And here's what I came to the conclusion of is they didn't see the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
I don't know what they saw, but it wasn't the Mona Lisa. So stay away from the two biggies, but go to things like the Rodin Museum. My favorite symbolist artist is the Gustave Moreau Museum, which is quite interesting. There's a museum dedicated to hunting, which is really fascinating. There's an expensive house of mirrors, which I liked for quirky reasons. I wouldn't really recommend it. It's Gravin's Wax Museum. I wouldn't recommend it unless you have an extra $50 you want to blow on a museum. So, but I saw it as many years ago. It wasn't quite as, I think it was probably about $25, $30. And they had this one old antique mirror. I wasn't so much interested in the wax museums as this one weird mirror chamber that was from the beginning of the 20th century. And that was just the most fascinating thing to me. But yeah, little museums in Paris, like the Catacombs is another one, are just really fascinating. And I looked for those. There's a natural history museum in Salzburg. Obviously, I can go on and on and on here. You know, I could give you a huge list of Prague museums and Belgium, Brussels, and Tbilisi. My favorite museum here is the Silk Museum because it deals with the Silk Road went right through here. And so Tbilisi became a place where they really made silk products. And so you go in there and you see everything from the cocoons of the moths all the way down to the different fabrics and textiles. And they have the little silkworms in alcohol. So, okay.
When did Georgia start making silk? I know silk didn't come to the West until like sometime during late Byzantium, if I'm not mistaken. But I guess it's been a while.
But it did come through here. So, and the end of the road was actually Lyon, and they have a lot of silk-related material there, including in the old town of Lyon, which people don't go to Lyon, but it's like almost right up there with Paris to me. And a much more interesting place to visit because it's got Roman ruins and medieval ruins, and it's got just some of the strangest weird architecture in the old town. And because it's not such a huge tourist spot, the French go there, but people from other countries don't even think that much about going there.
Yeah, we didn't go there when we were there. So
they have these tunnels that go through the old town because they had to protect the silk from rain. And so they're called traboules, and they're these tunnels and so you don't know where they are. So you're in the old town, you just open up a random door on the side, and suddenly it opens up into these tunnels, and you just walk through. And it's just fascinating stuff.
That's great.
Lyon's a very mysterious town.
Interesting. That's great.
Okay, Caleb, you got any thoughts now?
I'm afraid not related to museums. They're all very interesting. I'd like to go there if ever I can afford to go to Europe. But yeah.
Yeah, well, you don't. Nobody has to go anywhere. So what I want is people who live in small anonymous towns in the Midwest to rediscover those places. Because what I hear from everyone is that where I live is boring. And I think there's a direct correlation to both internet life and the travel industry. So we're told, you should go to Rome, go to London, go to all these places. And it makes our own world seem like, my little cow pasture in, outside of Dubuque, Iowa seems like boring by comparison, but it's not. It's just, people used to live there and be perfectly happy, but now they're not. Why? That's
I'll,
what
I'll tell you, as somebody who grew up around the Metro Detroit area,
Right.
that and who's moved over to the Indiana and more rural parts of Indiana. I say more rural. It's more rural compared to Detroit. Moved over to those parts and drives around these roads pretty often. It's passing by some of these small towns. It's really, really fascinating. It's just a totally different atmosphere.
Yeah, it
you
is.
drive a mile out of town and it's like just cows and corn and soybeans.
Yeah, there's kind of areas of more what I call semi-rural area around here even, and it's just, I always like those areas better
Right.
than the city, the suburban conglomerations and the like, it's just more, you feel like you can breathe,
Yeah. Well, Walker Percy once said the hardest thing for people is to get through like a Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah.
I particularly I think Thursdays are worse than a Wednesday.
Yeah. Well, Wednesday, Thursday, whatever. But the point is that normal day, it's so difficult for us.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me take a break here. Do either of you want to get off and allow someone on, or do you got things to talk about? It's up to you.
I still got a question I want to ask.
Go.
Or
Okay.
want to ask about.
Think about it. We're going to play another Georgian song, and we're going to remind people, what are we doing here? We are trying to raise money for me to get my massive 12,000 pound library from Alaska, 12 time zones away, to Tbilisi, Georgia, with craziness on the seas in the shipping world. The Red Sea is blocked. They're going around Cape Town. The Panama Canal is backed up for days and days and days. I mean, sometimes like 15 days because of the dryness of the lake in the middle of the Panama Canal. So it's weird. But, I can't wait till life is perfect. But I can play some Georgian music, and we do have it here. Let's see, what should I play? Let me play you another one from this folk collection. I might have played this one before, but it's a great piece. I just know it is number 17. Abkhazuri Sokotsila. And the woman in the center of this has an absolutely amazing voice. I am not sure where this comes from. It might be from the edge of somewhere. But let's play that. We'll be right back. PayPal links and GoFundMe links below if you want to give more money and you need if you need a tax deductible receipt, go through GoFundMe. So having said that, is anyone else out there? Write down if you need the Okay, there we are. Yeah, love that piece. So thanks to David, Nathaniel, and Kenneth, we now only need 1,636 American dollars. You can give whatever. These companies tend to translate them all into American dollars. So, Caleb, go with your question. This is you. Question.
Hi. Okay. So this is something that I've been meaning to ask you for a while. I know this because you talk about a lot about folk music and how you part of the reason you went to Georgia is because they have a more naturally traditional culture. Relatively, yeah. At least, well, especially compared to America, but just in general, I guess.
Yes. Yes.
So one of the I hate to call it my mission. One of my life's one of my life missions, for lack of a better term, is to try and learn some American folk music. Not just American folk music, but folk music in general. I dabble in Irish, etc. And I've been trying to understand this thing. There's a certain kind of you have to indulge me for like a minute here. There's a certain kind of drive that old recordings of folk music seem to have that a lot of new recordings simply don't have. And I'm not just talking about like 60s folk revival where they kind of sanded down and polished the folk music. But also people nowadays who are like old time music, American folk music players, old time music players, who are trying or ostensibly trying to replicate the way it was done, like old fiddle tunes and old banjo tunes or stuff like that. They seem to still not have that weight behind each individual like beat. I've tried to kind of push it. I tried to kind of like narrow it down to like, oh, maybe it's because back in the old days a lot of these fiddle tunes were for dances, and so there was more percussion in it because they were meant to drive a dance. But it seems like not all of it was the case, and there's another element which I think it might be where it's like, okay, maybe it has that particular weight to the beat because of there being more natural beats in reality back in the old days, horses, trains, etc. I was wondering if you had any idea, like, one, are you following me, and two, do you have any idea about that?
Yeah. So let me explain what's going on. What it is that, and this is particularly true in America, but it's also just as true in many Western European countries and quite a few countries, in fact. When countries reach a certain tipping point of technological progress, and on top of that, a certain kind of philosophical point, they lose their folk music. And where does it start? Well, for instance, and what that means is that, so for instance, I have recordings. I played one this morning of these old Scottish women moving this wool around. But the interesting thing about that is they were older Scottish women. There are no videos, to my knowledge, or film of younger Scottish women doing this. So whoever is capturing that is capturing the last embers of a dying flame. And what that means, however, is that whoever comes along after the death of those people, I would say a majority of them, since that was in the 1980s, have probably passed on. That the only people coming along after them are reviving something they probably heard off a record. Or there might be a few people alive who remember that, who they're reviving it from. But here's what you're missing. You're missing the actual culture. That is to say, we've taken it out. And so what happens is people go to a concert and they hear a folk musician. And that folk musician is performing for them. Have you ever seen any of those those movies, Jane Austen type movies, where they have like an English country dance in the middle of it? And
I've seen my mom watching.
Yeah, you should watch one of the good ones, you know. And what you'll notice is nobody is there to see the musician. They're not sitting around in front of the stage going like, "Oh yeah, we're watching John Smith playing the violin. That's so cool." No one's saying that. What they're doing is the musicians are there to facilitate their experience. They aren't there to give the musicians some sort of experience. And once we crossed a certain boundary where we had microphones, I mean, I remember in New York City sitting in a room about the size of the room I'm in here in Georgia, this room in particular. And he was playing an auto harp. He was from Seattle area. He was kind of a folky from the folk revival area, but he had written his own songs too, good music. But he was using a microphone, and I was sitting there saying to myself, there isn't anybody sitting in this room who couldn't hear him without a microphone. Why is he using a microphone? Well, it just becomes, you play at a folk club, you use a microphone. No one thinks about it. No one thinks about the processes. So I think a lot about the processes. I remember when I understood what a jukebox was. And there used to be these places in the South called the juke joint. The juke joint was a place on the other side of the tracks. Usually it was a black place, almost always. But so you'd go into one of these places and they'd be drinking, but they'd also be dancing. And there would be a blues musician, often a blind blues musician, in the corner playing. That's what they'd be dancing to. So he'd play, I don't know if you've ever heard any old, Blind Lemon Jefferson or even Robert Johnson or these kind of things, and they'll do an up-tempo number, and that would be a song to kind of shuffle your feet around and dance. Well, someone came in the 1930s, I imagine, and said, we've got this new machine. We can put a 78 RPM record on it, and we can put a whole embankment of them, and then a little arm comes in, pulls it, puts it on. You can put in a quarter. Well, a quarter would have been too expensive. You can put in a nickel, and you can hear a whole song. It might have been even a penny or so. That would be a good thing to find out. But the point is, this will be your music. And so they called them the jukebox. And one of the things that happened when the jukebox came in was the blues singers and country singers who were in these little establishments went out.
Yeah.
So this is, there are so many processes like this where technology eliminates the music. So I am going to do a video at some point in the near future. If you keep bothering me, I'll try to get to it sooner. Hey, I'm doing this stuff right now, so it's hard to make a lot of great videos. I've got this whole Taylor Swift two-parter coming, but I'm doing this. So
still waiting for that gospel series.
Yeah. But for instance, one of the things I've been thinking about is why does Taylor Swift have this absolutely emotional, religious ecstasy that attends her? When you see the people in the concerts, and I've got videos I'm going to share. Taylor Swift comes to someone's house, or Taylor Swift shows up, and the girls just break down in tears. It's like they've just met God, and it's such an odd experience. And I often think now, the Beatles have this Beatlemania, and there's a kind of Taylor mania right now. But the Beatles hated it. They wanted to play, when they played at Shea Stadium, the girls were screaming so loud that they couldn't hear the Boeing 707 or whatever it was in the background, they were right next to LaGuardia Airport. They couldn't hear them taking off because that's how loud the girls were screaming. But neither could the Beatles hear themselves. The sound equipment wasn't as good at that time. But also the Beatles didn't really ever like Beatlemania. Taylor, however, really likes Taylor Mania. Although I think in the end it will turn around and bite her and it's already creating a constriction of her freedom to go anywhere. And but I think that she, however, and I highly recommend anyone interested in music to watch her Eras tour. It'll eventually come out on video. It's on some streaming platform, or was anyway. I'm waiting for the Blu-ray because I know she'll put it out. She's a physical media person. I'm happy. But anyway, so anyway, the point is this: we're missing the culture. Without the culture, you don't have the reality, the same reality. So instead of actually playing folk music, you're performing. And real folk music isn't a performance.
Well, it's one of those things where I wonder, and this is especially obvious to someone who's not like not white. First of all, I'm Chinese, but I was born in America, so I technically have inherited by osmosis just some of the that kind of culture. So I have some intuitive understanding of it, but it's strange to me. One, it's difficult to actually get into the culture, the actual culture, because one, I'm kind of not part of it as such, especially if I'm going to sort of like whatever music you play banjo on, for instance. Like I am far removed from the Appalachians.
Sure.
And
that's your culture. It's their culture.
Yeah, well, exactly. But it's one of those things where it's like, okay, so if the people who own that culture originally willingly in one way, fashion or another, abandon that culture, is there any possible way to still preserve?
We have preserved it. It's on recording.
Well, yes.
And this is you just hit on the biggest problem that I've been trying to deal with in my musical and cultural questioning. Is there a way to take the embers of what is left from this? I mean, for instance, a lot of the last of the really, because it's what folk music really is the regional music of people. So it used to be, it wasn't that there was French music. There was music from the Massif Central, or from the Lorraine region, or from a specific town. And it wasn't that people were prejudiced against music from another country. They thought the fiddle player in that next valley over didn't do it right, because they didn't understand why he was hitting the bow twice instead of just making a smooth sound out of it. You see this in Ireland. Ireland kept their folk culture much longer, and they still have more remnants of it. And the reason for it is because they got passed over. They were considered these, they're the ignorant Irish people. They weren't part of the, they weren't part of the high industrial technological part of the British Empire. So people just said, let them play their little fiddle tunes. So all the way up through the 80s, they were doing pretty well with their folk culture, and it still is. If you go to certain places, you'll walk into a pub and you might hear someone's playing tunes and such. They might be doing it through a microphone, but we'll take whatever we can get. So, but starting in the 80s, you started getting more of a commercialization of this, and commercialization is one of the aspects that spells the death of a culture, because it commodifies what had once been just a natural thing. But I am reminded what Owen Barfield said about final participation. And he makes it very clear in Saving the Appearances, subtitled A Study in Idolatry, that final participation shouldn't suggest something eschatological. It can, but it doesn't have to. What he was saying was, we used to do all of this stuff naturally. We used to play music together naturally. We used to eat together and talk naturally. But now, in order for us to do that, you have to consciously put down your devices, not watch the television, and have a conversation. So that's where we are in a much deeper way with music, because I would say conversation is going now, but music went quite a while ago, at least 50 years ago. So where we are now is different. So let me see what's going on here. Byrne, don't you think she's somewhat of a child? Who's she? I'm not following all this.
You were talking about Taylor Swift earlier.
Yeah, Taylor Swift there, I think.
If you think Taylor Swift is a child, she may act like a child, but this person is a lot savvier than you understand. And that's one of the things that I came across. Go read my 2 essays on her that are over on Substack. This girl, if you don't watch out, she'll become the president of the United States. because quite frankly, most people, it'll go listen to her New York University speech accepting her honorary doctorate, because when you do, it'll start off musician talk, and somewhere along the way, you'll realize, oh my goodness, this person is really intelligent. And she is far more poised. She makes Trump and Biden look like just complete amateurs, which they kind of are. They just kind of out there. But the question is, what does she actually believe? Because she's got endless ambition, and once one of the things that I came to the conclusion of doing the study on her is her main thing isn't actually music. Go read the essays. So,
cliffhanger.
No, but like I said, Taylor Swift acts like she purposely dumbs herself down.
Yeah.
But she isn't. She doesn't have a lot of exposure to certain things. But for instance, if she was going to, maybe not now, maybe in 10, 20 years, decide to do something political, I think she would download about 20 terabytes of information overnight. She would just start really getting into it. So I'm not saying I want that at all, because the girl does have some serious problems. Yeah. So, but I also hope she gets over them. One of the interesting things is this whole football player thing.
Yeah.
He's actually a Christian, and so is his brother.
See?
Yeah. Huh. I think they're both Catholics. Are you out there, Kale? And she was actually raised as a Catholic.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people thought she was a Protestant. And I've read so many different things. And here's the thing. We really don't know, because this information stays behind the wall. We don't get it. When I've searched for where exactly did she go to church, she certainly did. But anyway, read my essays. I really go into it in much depth there.
Where are your essays at? I actually don't know where they are.
Oh, Substack.
Look for The Anadromist or Burn Power. That's my name.
Yeah, I'll vouch for them. They're great essays.
But it must be interesting for you, Caleb, being here. You've got Chinese roots, but even in China, their roots are being scrubbed. I mean, they got scrubbed by Mao.
I was going to say, it's like the Cultural Revolution.
Yeah, I've got a 3-record set of, it's like this girl with white hair. I can't remember the exact name of it, but it's pretty amazing photos of this opera and such. But of course, everything got turned into propaganda. Now, there were in back valleys and corners, you will find some things, but they did just as efficient a job at scrubbing traditional culture there as we have done through our commercial culture. And also, we have this tension between the commercial culture and the nihilistic, artistic, modern and postmodernist cultures. And so what they did is they approached the whole thing differently. But part of my thought is that challenging culture died in the 90s, and all that's basically been left are little embers of all sorts of things. And then there's all this commercial stuff. So the world has basically been turned into McDonald's. So does anybody out there want to come on board and talk as well? I'm going to be here till the top of the next hour. If you do, let me know. You guys keep an eye on that for me.
Sure. I'll keep an eye on the chat.
And if someone does, I'll send them the link again.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anybody else waiting in queue, so to say. So, but
yeah, well, I said 2 at a time, so it's my responsibility. So, Michael.
Yes, Bert.
Give me what are your thoughts? You've been following the channel. Caleb, when did you start following the channel?
Let's see. I think it was after one of your talks with Paul. I think you know what? I think it was after you and Paul's what was that thing in Germany that you guys did a long time ago?
So like in 2022 when I went to Germany.
Yeah, thereabouts. Because I know you also had a conversation with Paul right afterwards, but like sometime afterwards after he got back, and that intrigued me enough to try to listen to figure out who more of you are. Actually, yeah. So I went, and then after that I went looked at all your How We Got Here videos and your minstrel show video, which is probably one of my favorite ones by
Which
you.
one? Which one?
The one about the minstrel shows.
Oh,
Because
yeah.
that's being interested in American folk music. The minstrel shows are so like ridiculously.
That's like the hidden.
influential.
That's the hidden history of America, right there. Speaking of interesting things, I've got an album at home where these people were kind of recreating this old style. There are different styles of banjos. One is finger picking, but the other, and using these little picks and stuff. But the older style is frailing, which was more like this.
Yeah. That's my style.
Yeah, there was a album that came out. It was actually the first banjo album I ever got. It was all this old. I didn't understand what was going on. I just thought, oh, it's a banjo album, but how come it doesn't sound like Deliverance or Bill Monroe? And but they were doing this old style. But they had one song on there that was a Chinese tune that I thought was really fascinating, and it was based on something that the Chinese had brought over during the 19th century. So I thought that was.
Okay, you're gonna have to point me in this direction because this is
I will
like my specific niche.
You have my my address. Write to me and remind me of that. Right now, it's going to be a little tough for me to do that, but write to me and say, "What about that Chinese banjo tune?" And I will look for it because it's on a compilation album by several different people, fairly obscure, but I might be able to find the link or a YouTube video that has the tune or something. I mean, we're talking obscure here, but I can do it.
Yeah, no,
this is what I do.
So as like probably one of the dozen Chinese banjo pickers in the world, I've been like endlessly interested in the possibility of Chinese influence on American folk music, which is, after all of my research, basically almost certainly close to none. But if that exists, then it may be slightly further from none than I expected.
It's a very hidden sort of thing, and there's a lot of what was called chinoiserie, the Chinese kind of stuff. And there have been people China has always been. I remember I lived in New York City near Chinatown. I loved living there because then I could get like really serious Chinese food and so many different kinds and such. I remember getting the Singapore ice. I don't know if you've ever had this creation, but it was like a pie of shaved ice with like plum sauce and corn on the just shucked corn inside of it. And it was it had a sweet syrup. It was just like the most, to me, it was like, what are we doing? But I kept coming back to that place. And there were a group of us in New York who were like, yeah, we're rocking the Chinese thing now. So, but no, in New York City, I knew I had a whole group of friends who were, I don't know what the word is. Well, Chinophiles, is that the right word? And also Japanophiles.
No, that's
so.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Cinephiles. But no, growing up in the San Francisco Bay Area, Chinatown was like huge on my radar. I also spent 4 years of my very young life growing up in Hawaii. And I was in the minority there because it was Chinese, Japanese, Hawaiians, and a few other kind of Polynesian-ish sort of things, maybe Filipinos and such. And then there were some white people. And if you look at the picture of me in my school, you can see I'm in the minority, and I'm barefoot along with other people going to school there, which was quite cool. This was back in the early 1960s. But my mother had friends who were Chinese, and they were really nice to her, and they gave her a 7-course Chinese dinner before she left. And they took me along, and of course, I was like 7 years old. I had no idea what was going on, but it was great food. And I used to walk down the street eating dried squid. And then when I got to California, I couldn't find it until I found Chinatown.
There you go.
Yes. So, okay. So,
what are we doing here, Bert?
Peter Pedersen. Is it Peter Peterson or Peter Pedersen? Anyway, go ahead and use that that address there. That is the correct one. Send me a message. Send me an email. I will turn around and send you the link. So meanwhile, let's play some more music.
Yes.
And yeah, I can handle 3 at once here, so we're good. Anybody? Do you see any other questions here that I've missed?
Let's go back and look.
This is officially your job now, because obviously
Okey-dokey.
a lot of other stuff. So we're up to, I need $1,636, folks, to finish this whole thing off. Wouldn't it be wonderful? So let me play. I'm gonna go to solo mode here, and then I'm gonna play the another tune. This will be a group called Tutarchela, and singing a song. Well, it's kind of a medley of songs, including one I really like called Giovelo. And we'll do that, and then we'll be right back. Okay, I'm sending a link to Peter right now. Let's see who Peter is. And
very good.
There you go.
So
I just sent it. It'll probably take a couple of minutes for a turnaround. So
what are we doing here, Bern? What's
that's a good question.
Why are we here?
Why are we here? Oh, thank you for reminding me. By the way, that's Georgian music, and I know that song is somewhere. on the in the 4 different packs of 50 files.
Yeah, I'll look for it.
Made. And if you contribute $50, you will get 50 very rare Georgian music files. One thing I do is I often go raid the YouTube and then strip off the sound file and make an MP3 out of it. But that's what you can get if you get 50. If you get 100, you get 100. So they're in packs of 50. So, by the way, if you're waiting for me to send you something, it will come. I've just been kind of busy. So there we are. Okay, well, I see Peter here. I gotta align myself up so I don't disappear in the crease. Or actually, let's go this way.
Oh yeah.
So Peter, I'm putting you on now.
Great, fantastic. Thanks for having me.
So where are you from?
Germany, actually.
Okay, okay. Did I meet you when I was there last in 2021? No.
But I have heard of you by people who have met you over there. And
well, I was at the Bridges of Meaning conference.
Yes, exactly. That's what we are talking about. Yes, and some of the people have said, okay, between Paul Vanderklay and maybe you, I think you two were the most seen people at the time of a little corner of this internet.
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm kind of off in my own little world here, and I kind of cross over into Paul's world. I am so much more focused on culture, media, movies, the arts, but I have other interests as well, very obviously. But so, what do you do in what part of Germany?
The northern parts of it, Schleswig-Holstein
Okay.
and Mecklenburg-Vorpommern. That's where I originate from. But I think one of the most impressive videos that I have seen from you was, for one, the video about clowns. That was a fantastic one. That was really, really good. And then the one about demonstrations and revolutions in modern times. I couldn't help but stop it in between.
You were watching those were the Joker videos, part 1 and 2.
The Joker
and
video. It was fun.
I'm going to cut those up a little bit and put them on my new channel, the Anadrome, which is going to be dedicated more towards the arts. So, yeah, I've thought a lot about clowns, and I keep thinking about clowns. It's interesting. In the last year, about a year and a half ago, I picked up, certainly since I made those videos, I picked up 2 very interesting books on clowns. One is, I think, just simply called The Clown Book, and another one is a book of, it's like an encyclopedia of clowns.
And
one is from,
encyclopedia?
Yeah, one is from about 1980, and the other is from about the end of the 80s, about 1989. Not one mention in either one of them about clowns being frightening to anyone. And I just want to point this out, that many people say clowns have always been creepy, and my thought is, no, that's us that's changed, you know. And what is the effect of seeing so much CGI, so much anime, so many cute images on it? I think what it does,
also related to Stephen King's It.
Yes, that's the main sources of the clown fear. One is there was a serial killer in America named John Wayne Gacy, who used to dress up as a clown and perform for people, but he was also burying people under his house. The two never came together. He would never put on his clown makeup and kill people. But because that was found out, I remember in the early 1980s in New York City, we would joke about that. But no one was sitting in before Stephen King's It, which is the next major milestone here. Stephen King has these interviews where he says, of course, clowns are the most frightening thing of all. And they're not. I mean, when I grew up, clowns were funny.
But I find it so very relevant that you were mentioning, oh, he was always in one place, clothed inside of the clothes of a clown, and sometimes he was not. There was a distinction between the speaking like the secular place and the non-secular place, something similar and a kind of that. There was a monstrous place and there was a accepted place. And it seems that what you were mentioning before, we have changed. And maybe this
Exactly.
is akin to that.
Exactly.
We
So
need
that's
to
why
use
when
what
I
we
someday
have never
finish my Cute and
expected.
Creepy series, the whole point of that is that it's us who've changed. And
Yes.
here's my further prognostication. Eventually, we will see the cute things now as creepy.
I love
Because they are.
Yeah.
You know, why did the 20th century and the early, starting with the Mickey Mouse, why did suddenly these big-eyed creatures show up? Now, what's really interesting is that there were big-eyed paintings in the ancient world, but they weren't cute.
Yes.
They were deities. They were depictions of the sacred. So it's very strange that we would then have this. See, my whole point with cute is that you can't question it.
You
If you
question it under
there's
certain
something wrong with you.
Yes, yes. As you were saying, something would be wrong with you if you were to question it. But under different circumstances, this presumption changes.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm at the point now, for instance, I am pretty sure that the whole trans situation that we find ourselves in right now would not have happened were it not for the cute.
In what sense?
Because cute imagery has no gender. I mean, what's the difference between Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse? Just a dress.
And a bow on top.
Well, yeah. But basically, as images, as you go into this, they are essentially neutered images because they're supposed to be baby-like, and baby-like things are not supposed to be sexual. Although the Japanese started doing something very strange with that. So they started making these big-eyed creatures and then sexualizing them and making them violent as well, which
in
is
a sense, they have become autonomous, and thereby they have become entangled because they become something that could be entangled because of them becoming an art form of their own. Of course, when you read, for example, the very early works of Konrad Lorenz, the one who was speaking about imprinting with the geese and so on, he also had a few books and was talking about the big eyes and the similarity between very young babies and very young childs and animals, and that there is a quite great similarity between the comics of that time and the animals, and similar in the idea that we perceive it as cute because they are similar to the animal babies, and that is something very biologically intrinsic to us. And I think,
yeah, well, there has been a whole theory that says that, we appreciate the cute because it is baby-like, and we naturally are gravitated towards that. But I would counter, how come people then in the past didn't have cute images? If this is such an obvious biological development, why is it only in the last, say, 100 years?
What is worthy of depiction? That is the question, I would say. And what the resources are, that is also another question. But you are right. I think not everything is worth of depiction. What is also worth of our attention? Yeah.
And here's my question. And here's the one I don't think we've done any research on at all as a psychologically or in any intellectual way or in any clinical way. What is the effect of cute imagery upon children? Because consider this, the toys that people were playing with, say, 120 years ago, were not cute in the same way. And in fact, those images are now considered creepy, almost by default. So puppets, dolls, early animation stuff, it's all now people look at it and go, ooh, that's so creepy. What do they mean when they call it creepy? Which I know very well what they mean by it. But the point is this, is that this is never, we often think because you're born in a certain place, like I was born in 1955. To me, World War II had always happened. It was just there. It seemed like as far away as, I don't know, the French Revolution by the time I was born. Likewise, when people are younger, I remember when I first met someone born in 1968, And I said, so you have no idea what changed, do you? From the early 1960s to the late 1960s. You have no idea. You've always been around. There have always been long-haired hippies and such. There's always been people getting high on psychedelics. It's always been like that. And likewise, people born, say, in the year 2000, basically there's always been smartphones, especially if you're 2005, it's over. You know, there have always been these devices. That's how, when we're born, that's how we look at things.
Yeah, I was born in '99. I remember clearly in my early childhood what the world was like before smartphones. I miss that world.
Yeah. Well, hold on to it. Hold on to it. Because as you get older, that will become a very important milestone to remember. Just like I remember the world before hippies.
Yeah.
And I look back and I say, because I remember the first one I ever saw, you know, not exactly who it was, but I remember I started to see them. They started to show up at my high school. No one looked anything like those people prior to that. Yeah. Except, of course, you had analogies if you went back to the Wild West.
Yeah.
You saw pictures of General Custer, or if you saw, you know, but that didn't make any sense to me. So they weren't the same kind of people, although they were getting some of their imagery from there. Although they tended to emphasize, in their game of cowboys and Indians, they tended to emphasize the Indians more.
Yeah.
If I may ask a question about that, and maybe add something also to the prior discussion. I think I remember you talking in the Barbie video about the situation that only within the romantic period it has changed, that the dolls were no longer presented as adults, as babies. I think something shifted, that they were.
Yeah. Well, in the romantic era,
yes.
Children were given little porcelain baby dolls.
Exactly.
But prior to that, in the early part of the 19th century, they had whole families of dolls.
I found it totally fascinating. It was
really interesting. And I have a huge book on it here. I've been researching these things more and more, trying to understand why the imagery. I try to understand why images change. You know, right now, this is why Taylor Swift is fascinating to me. I suddenly, it's like this year, I'd known who she was, obviously, but suddenly something went to me, uh-oh, what is this that's developed? And that's when I get excited, because I say like, ooh, this is new. This thing is new. What is this thing? Because people will say, well, the Beatles and Michael Jackson. No. It's something very different. And so just like, I remember I had a moment when I realized that the rage in punk rock was new in music. And prior to, say, Iggy Pop in the late 1960s, you cannot find rage in music. You can find people doing war dances in Polynesia. You can find people doing this, but that kind of nihilistic existentialist rage, that unspecified anger, did not exist in music prior to that.
Maybe connected to that, I have this wonderful essay that is by Oscar Wilde. I just found him. I'm not sure you can.
Who is that? Oh, okay, Oscar Wilde. Yeah.
And it is about the decline of a lie. And there he mentions something that is very related to this, because he is, of course, someone who studied classic literature, and he already knew that Aristotle was of the opinion art imitates nature. And of course, he persiflaged it, and he was ironically speaking about the opposite thing, that more often than art imitates nature, everything imitates art. And so he was speaking about the opinion, no one would have perceived the mist within London if not for a poet who was writing it down, showing to you that there is something to perceive. Very likely, he jokes about this, for many centuries there might have been a lot of weather phenomena very akin to the mist within London, but no one has ever perceived it until be relevant to be perceived, if not for the poet. And I think something akin to this happens with Taylor Swift and so on. We are coming into a position where we begin to realize, relevance realization, that this is something we should perceive, but only because of the experiences we have had within the decades of experiences prior to that. And I think Taylor Swift is something very strange in that sense. I do not find her very interesting and relevant, except for the relation with the people in my own time.
Yeah. Hold that thought right there. We just got it. Michael, you did it. You lowballed yourself. Michael just contributed another $2, which I think we can safely say is a message to other people to do better than that. Would you say that?
I would, in fact, yes. It's a reminder to all you folks.
Let me give us the new total. Hold on, Michael. Got to write it down. $2. Michael, and then where are we? Okay, so that's okay. 16, 34. So we now have. Oh, wait, did I miss something else here? Hold on a second.
That would be a good time to.
Okay, now that's you. Okay. Oh, I forgot to write the $33 down. So that was coming from, hold on a minute. Is that, oh, David Wells. No, I did write that down. So we now have what we need is 1,634 American dollars. So I'll take Canadian, but they're not quite worth as much. Australian, whatever. It doesn't matter. Just throw it in.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we are at a point. But like I said, when I was just talking to Caleb, we are at a point where the possibilities are opening up again, because for instance, one of the things I've been really monitoring this last year is the utter failure of Hollywood. And they have been putting out these lots of cutesy stuff, lots of woke messaging in their movies, lots of just bad storytelling, if nothing else. I mean, I can accept a little wokeness. I mean, the reason Barbie did well is because it hit some kind of nerve, even if I wasn't particularly excited about that nerve. Nevertheless, it did something. Whereas all this Marvel stuff just kind of like crashed and burned, which I'm grateful for. So what it says to me is we're at a point where new things can happen, because everything, for instance, right now, I don't think anybody can tell you what life is going to be like in the year 2030. We just have so many weird, fluid situations in the world right now. What's going to be the result of the American election? What's going to be the result of the war in Ukraine? What's going to be the result of what's going on in Israel and Lebanon? What's going to be the result of the Houthi rebels shooting at and boarding freighters in the Suez Canal? What's going to be the result of the Panama Canal in a drought backing ships up by the hundreds at the same time? What's going to be the result of who knows what weather coming? And I'm sure, and then at the same time, everyone's going, AI. What's going to be the result of this? No one can guess. But it's like Bob Dylan said, don't speak too soon because the wheel's still in spin. And it's no telling who that it's naming. So we're there. And what's interesting is Bob Dylan wrote that in 1964, or he sang it in 1960. He actually wrote it in 63, before Kennedy's death. And we're in that kind of situation where, for instance, consider how different the world was after President Kennedy's death by the end of the 1960s everywhere. And that's where we are. We're in a situation with that much fluidity in it. But the good news is that means new things can be done if you kind of let go of the supposed way everything has to be done. Because for me, a lot of that also involves holding on to the good things of the past. Going to those embers and trying to blow some life into them, because they're still there. And new forms will arise, but what will they be? We were just talking about folk music, Caleb. Will we be able to get folk cultures back? Not in the way they were, but in a new kind of way. We don't know what that new kind of way is yet. But that's the reason I'm in Georgia, is because I go, for instance, a supra is a ritual traditional meal. And I was at one last week that was It was all philosophers talking. Fascinating.
You mean in the sense of it being an atmosphere accompanied by the music of folk music?
No, we didn't have that much music there. I don't know if there was any, but just the point that we were sitting together at a table, eating lots of food and talking for hours and hours. And one of those guys is coming over to my house on Friday. So I made a new friend out of it. But I was invited by another friend who's a philosopher. But here's the thing is, I just go and find out, okay, well, this door opens. Let me walk through there, see what's happening. But in many traditional ritual Georgian meals, and I hear it sometimes outside my window, suddenly it'll start and I'll hear singing. And I'll say, okay, it's alive there. And I've talked to Georgians, and what I'll say to them is, so basically, people will often say, well, isn't Georgia Russia? People who don't know any better. And I go like, no, Russia is a teenager. Georgia is like an old man. And wine was made here for the first time 8,000 years ago. And I have never met a Georgian who wouldn't agree with me when grapes were starting to be fermented and wine drunk. That's the beginning of Georgian culture. And then it spread, the wine drinking spread throughout the Mediterranean and all these other places, including their ritual toasts. Of course, by the time you get to English, it's like, cheers, mate. But, here it's a very poetic thing still. You don't just get up there and go like, oh, have a good time. You get up there and you say something. It's got to be from the heart, the guli, they call it. It's got to be from the heart. I realized this right away, and that's always put me in very well with the Georgians. And
attachment to the place and to the family, because the people who are drinking are most likely the people of your family, and they are the ones who introduce you as a young part of the family to the habits of drinking and so on.
The guy who's coming over, his name is Ucha. Never heard that name before. I hear all sorts of interesting names here, but the guy who's coming over gave this very impassioned toast that in Georgia, the most important thing was actually friendship. And he said basically it's right below family. But he was saying that friendship is, see, for instance, in the epic poem, The Knight in Panther's Skin, it's all about friendship. Both women and men being friends with women, women with women, men with men, and there's some overlap. But the point is that that's at the core of their culture, this idea of friendship. And so, I hate to talk about my American friends, but, we tend to be, as we say in America, really good at the beginning. Oh, hey, how are you doing? Good to meet you. And then we're not very good on follow-up.
Yes.
Yeah.
We tend to go off the boil. Whereas in Germany, I think you've heard the metaphor of the peach culture and the coconut culture. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't.
The peach culture is a culture that you can bite into it very easily. America's like that. But eventually you get to a hard nut in the middle. And that kind of explains America. That is, it's easy to get into it, but then at a certain point you get there and then you realize, no one really cares anymore. We're isolated. Then the coconut cultures is that it's really hard to get in. But once you get in, you get all the meat of the coconut and the juice and everything, and you're a part of it. But it's much harder to get in. So
that's exactly the description my mother gave of northern Germany. She came from the middle part of Germany, and she was speaking about the northern part where my father comes from, and they were exactly alike like this. And when you go to the eastern part, it's totally different.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we have all these little differences. You can't apply that metaphor exactly everywhere, but the pineapple culture or the plum culture or rather the orange culture. But yeah, here it's a little different because, for instance, Americans, I've noticed, they've heard that Georgians are very hospitable, but when Georgians are walking down the street, they're not looking at you and smiling all the time. Because as someone once said, they're kind of a mixture culturally between, say, Italians having a lot of emotions and stuff, and Russians, which is a weird mixture when you think about it. But the Georgians don't like necessarily big emotions all the time, as much as they like deep emotions. So if you see, I've demonstrated that I can fit in, so they love me.
Is it maybe that the emotions or habits are more attached to the place? For example, like with storks, you have, for example, the situation that storks do not remember the partner, but they remember the place and they are attached to the place. And so the Georgians maybe are more happy and more embracing of each other when they meet each other within their home, not on the streets, but they know this place is safe around the fireplace or something like that. But it sounds so.
Well, the table is very important.
The table is important.
And the name supra actually comes from an Arabic word that means table.
Okay.
And so that's. Let's take another break. I'm going to play another song, and we are here trying to raise money to get my library. I still need $1,634. So if you can do anything before we go, I'm going to leave at the top of the hour. We're going to play one more song, talk a little bit more, and then say our farewells. But just Georgian music today. Let's see what else I've got here. Oh, okay, there.
Do you have anything else by any nuns, Georgian nuns, or like? My mother really liked that recording.
Well, I played another one earlier. I don't have that, but let's see if we got a group of Georgian women singing here. Okay, no. Okay, we played that one. Played that. What's this one? Wait. Let's try this one. Yeah, let's try this. Probably wasn't the kind of thing you were looking for, but let me play this other piece here. It's by a group called Lashari, and the main singer here is Georgi Ushikashvili, who is a folk music teacher here. And this song is called Tsinskaro, which is an extremely beautiful song and very slow. We'll play that, and then we'll come back and just kind of close this up. So, play this, a couple minutes long.
찐스카로 참아비아래 שם خدا کالی لامازیتین شم خدا
Okay, well, I was planning on closing down at the top of the hour. However, if someone can send a donation to the container library cause in the next 5 minutes, we'll go on longer. If not, we will stop here. So it's up to you.
I already sent you $10 a few minutes ago. So
where did you send it? GoFundMe?
It should be.
Hold on a minute.
Via PayPal.
Oh. Someone sent me an anonymous thing, but that's not you. I've got two different $33 amounts, but I don't see, okay. When did you send, okay. When did you send?
Doesn't matter. I'm just sending it to you because you deserve it.
Yeah. Okay, so I am going to, hold on a minute. I've got money here. So someone left an anonymous $33. That's really odd. It's the second $33 amount, which is just an odd amount. So let me switch. I'm going to switch over here and put up the other camera, and we'll go to the big board. See what this does. Okay, so we have anonymous $33, and that's down here. So that means, oh no, what a funky amount. So we now have 1,000. We need to get to the end here, to the final $12,000 goal. We need $1,601, and that extra bid has given us, well, let's say another half hour. So yeah, let's keep talking. Let me get us back here.
You know, Bern, every time you say the big board, I think of that one moment in what is it, Doctor Strangelove, where George C. Scott, referring to the Russians, says, "But they'll see the big board."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I understand. Doctor Strangelove may be my favorite comedy of all time. So
really, it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Michael, you've been sitting back there. You got any thoughts?
Plenty. Let's see. Has America always been a peach culture, so to speak, would you say? Or has it changed? And what changed it, if it has changed?
Well, clearly, Puritan New England was not a peach culture, nor is it today. It's very hard to get into New England. For instance, if you were to drive up to, I don't know, New Hampshire, Vermont, the back part of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and if you were to try to get in with the people who were born there, it would be almost impossible. So, for instance, there's a joke told by a Maine comedian. There's actually a whole subspecies of American humor from Maine. And they talk about someone who was born in New Hampshire, just below Maine, where New Hampshire goes into the ocean there. And the person was brought over from the New Hampshire hospital 3 days after they were born to Maine. And the Mainers always have said, yeah, well, he's not from here. He lived the rest of his life there. So there are parts like that. Now, Alaska, on the other hand, is like a huge peach. Alaska's more like I don't know. It's just because what it is it's the frontier. And the frontier is that you have to be very friendly when you first meet people. So because now, we have different sets of imagery that's part of American mythology. One of the images is, the people in covered wagons going across the prairie, setting up, little towns and such. We'll forget about the whole Indian thing for a moment. But then there's another person. So you set up this little town. Then there's another person who comes to town, and it's another mythological figure. The people who come in the covered wagons across the American country in these big long wagon trains and such, or later in trains, are kind of anonymous. But there is a kind of person who isn't anonymous, and that is the gunslinger, the guy who comes into town, the bad man. And so one of the reasons why the people in these small American places, and the further west you go, the more this would be true, had to be friendly at first. It's because if you weren't, you might be one of them. You might be one of the really bad people, because it's very clear American can throw up some very interesting people, a kind of a nice life. And we also still have that really dark part of us as well. So in Alaska, well, it's interesting. In Southern California, you have a very strange thing. The peach seed is really big in Southern California, the peach pit. It's like you just get a little nibble off the edge and then you're at the peach pit. Because I didn't grow up, but I spent 16 years in New York City. New York City, there was a cartoon once that showed New York City on one panel, Los Angeles on the other. In the New York City panel, you have these really tall buildings and you have dark weather and it's raining and there are people huddled around in dark coats. And one person says, hello, good day. And then there's a thought balloon coming out of his, no, it's like this. The one person goes, fuck you. And then there's a thought balloon coming out of his head going, have a good day. In Los Angeles, it's just the opposite. So the thought balloon is what they're saying is, there's this whole California phony thing. Not that all, I mean, I grew up in California, so not that everyone is like that. But nevertheless, that's a kind of a deformation of the frontier stereotype. In Alaska, it's at its most extreme. So when you first come into a town, everyone's accepting. And then after a while, you find out they don't really mean it. So, I mean, I much prefer, I think I like Europe for the fact that it takes, in many cultures, it takes a while to figure out who your friends are. And then once you've made them, though, they stick with you. Whereas American friends tend to fall off after a while. And I don't like that. Hold on. I see a little red dot here. It's saying something. Oh, what are you doing to us now?
I wonder what mischievous miscreant could have.
Well, you finally did it. You finally did it.
Yeah, I had to top myself again.
Yes. So that means Michael just donated an entire $1.
Yeah.
We now need an even $1,600.
Yes.
I would have liked if the even number was 0, but we'll take that for now. Thank you.
There you go.
So,
yeah, that's 100 pennies.
Yeah. Anybody out there have any thoughts that you want to share with us? Caleb, I'm going to let you do the keep an eye on things, and if anyone has a question for us, let us know. Okay.
Sure.
So we have another half hour. So.
Yeah. I was actually, I don't know, I might head out soon because the last day I think it's in town is Freud's last session, and I was kind of hoping to catch it because it interests me. What are your thoughts on what the film might be, Bern? You've heard of this film, right? Freud's Last Session. Oh, I think Bern is frozen. Or
we lost Bern.
Ah, well.
All right, well, it's time to hijack the stream.
All right, it's our stream now.
It's still open.
Seizing the.
I'm trying to see if the stream is. Yeah, no, it's going. It's just that Bern's are frozen.
Yeah. So now it's our stream. It belongs to the people now, and.
But the people don't know what they're doing, so they're doing
we
everything
the
wrong.
stream of production.
Yeah, exactly. Oh dear.
Is Peter still there? You're still there, right?
Okay. Yeah. All three of us are here. It's just Bern who's.
Yeah.
Maybe
I'm just looking at the chat just now. Computer just crashed, so I guess we're done for the night. Is the stream still running? How can the stream still be running if the
stream is still running? Okay.
We're still talking to each other, so we're still. Hey, we could milk this, man.
That's right.
I think we should do everything that we can to give him more donations and give him the money that he deserves.
Yeah, we could, at least for a while. Who knows?
Good.
Okay, well, it's up to us now to get that remaining 1,600.
There you go. Yeah, it's on us.
The burden is on us. So,
yeah.
Any intellectual conversations or any intellectual content that you would like to contribute?
Actually, one thing that I was hoping to comment. I have two comments that stuck in my mind from the previous discussion. One of them was I think I don't really know what kind of, because I was hoping to get Bern's opinion specifically, but I may as well get your opinion. So so earlier we were talking about how cute things kind of popped up around when Disney happened, etc.
Yeah.
See, I was always of the opinion that the reason why big eyes, exaggerated expression, big mouth, shows up during that time is because animation shows up. And so when animation happens, we're when you look at a moving picture, a drawing, there are a lot of subtleties that are lost from a real face that you have to make up for. So I always thought that, well, eyes are kind of a compensation. So because when you look at, he's gone. Back. Peter. So that is Peter. Okay, now you're good. Okay, so
that the originator, that is the original maker of animes, the godfather of animes, was very much inspired by the Disney cartoons.
That's true.
And for that reason, we had, of course, those very much round eyes. And those round eyes were more or less translated into the anime culture. And there they have become very different, very much attuned to their style of drawing and writing, or whatever you might call it.
Yeah.
But you are right in assuming that our attention has become very much different. But when you look, for example, I don't know whether you have had any animals, for example, at your own place, but I have had dogs, I have had cats, and I find it very much fascinating that, for example, we call them Dobermänner, like those in P.I. Magnum, with Tom Selleck, for example. He has Apollo and Zeus, and they have very brown eyes, and they have no white part in their eyes as we do. And the Frenchmen already in the 18th century said, don't shoot before you see the white in their own eyes of your enemies. And that is something very distinct. When you look at human eyes and animal eyes, you will see that they are very different. And so the attention and the movement of our and their eyes is already a part of our attention, and something that is worthy of attention. And so in that sense, I think the movement and the changes within our own eyes is something prior to that, prior to the cartoons. Although you're very much right that the extent to which the eyes broadened is unnatural.
Yeah. It's very interesting. Yeah. Never considered that.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
I don't doubt that Bern is right, and analysis of its further significance as far as like our perception of what's cute. But I feel like the explanation, at least as it is, seems to be more practical than that. I don't know.
Yeah, but what I found.
Ganush said something. Could you expand on what you're saying regarding animation and the subtleties of features? I mean, there's not a whole lot more. Of features. He said subtleties of features. So basically, because I was thinking of like, well, okay. I mean, I had this thought in my head, and it's not exactly accurate. When you look at like, okay, well, anime is an easy example because I'm familiar with it. You look at an anime character, you know, so, they got the big eyes, they have the, they have like this really exaggerated expression. That's kind of true of all cartoons. Anime is most like, it's usually the most on model compared to like a lot of Western cartoons. Then the point is that the reason why they have like these massive eyes is because when you're looking at somebody, in reality, their eyes, as far as like how they, I mean, you were saying this basically earlier, Peter, where it's like, okay, when you look at the eyes, you're actually, in some sense, you see other people's eyes as big as an anime character, because that's where your attention is drawn to. And when you look at somebody's eyes, for example, I'm looking at your eyes, I can sense all kinds of little movements, all kinds of little slight tilting of your eyebrows here. I can notice when I've got your attention. I can notice when your attention is wandered somewhere else, or where you're thinking of something else. Just by looking at the very, very slight movements in your eyes. So when you translate that to animation, it needs to be much more exaggerated and much more clear. That's why the big eyes have been continued to be so popular in animation, because it's really, really difficult to communicate those.
It's the return of a father.
Hello.
Bern, he's back.
Well, let me give you what I haven't told anybody yet about the big eyes. The big eyes relate completely to the lecture I gave on minstrel music.
Yes. They would, wouldn't they? The pickaninny, right?
And what that tells me is one of the things about the whole minstrel cycle of music, but also all the images that come with it, is it's the first real that I can see, as far as in music goes, it's the first real super commercialization of music, and of taking something, of turning something into a kind of McDonald's version of it. So these people didn't really know what the slaves or the black folks were singing. So they heard something and then tried to translate it and didn't quite get it. Later, though, they're doing these very strange cartoons, sheet music covers, all sorts of stuff, where they have this big-eyed creature and it mutates over into early animation. And I have a whole book on the subject here. But it occurred to me before I found that book. I suddenly was going like, wait a minute. For instance, you ever notice Mickey Mouse is wearing white gloves? The white gloves come from minstrel shows.
Oh,
Then again, there's something about Mickey Mouse. Now, he's not as minstrelized as some other cartoons at that time. There's quite a few into the 1930s and 40s. You'll see these very clearly minstrel shows. One of the reasons Disney won't show certain cartoons again is because, you know, the crows in Dumbo reflect black people. There's a great deal of truth to that. But, you know, I take a totally different approach, though. It's like, no, don't cut that stuff out. We need the gargoyles.
Yeah.
We need to look at these things and understand what we've done to ourselves. So, for instance, I'm not in any mood to see a jihad against cute things. I'm in a mood to see us understand this weird thing we brought into our world. And for instance, I can look at Hayao Miyazaki's work and go like, yeah, there's cute elements in that, but that's art. You know, so it's not, nothing's ever as simple as it seems. You know, so that's how I look at it. Okay, folks, we're back. Give money. Oh, well, look, I see a little red dot. What's the little red dot means? It means, oh, there's Jill from the Italian part of Switzerland, Ticino. And what have you gotten for us? Oh, Jill, you shouldn't have. Okay, hold on a minute. To the big board. So we're going to go and we're going to look at, we're going to put this up. Jill, thank you very much. Have I sent you 200 songs yet? I think I have. So where am I going? Let's start a new, let's find
You
a
need
new
another
territory.
board, Vern.
I know. I need to do a new one, but I am just, thank you, Jill, for another $100. I think that's a triple hit on Jill.
Woo-hoo.
That brings us to a cool $1,500 to go. And wow, thanks. It's I really appreciate that, Jill. And by the way, Jill, I will be doing, and any of you are welcome as well. I will be doing another gathering in Georgia. I'm not thinking of doing it this spring, but I'm thinking of maybe April, May, or June of 2025. And we're going to spend time. We have to do it. Well, it's got to be April or May. We've got to do it while the cultural season is still going. And we also have to do it. This time what we'll do is I spent a little too long in the mountains last time, but that was an accident. But this time what we'll do is we'll spend time with various cultural phenomena here. And then we will go to this place called Vardzia, which is a cave city carved out of the side of the mountains. And there's a really lovely family out there that put me up, and their garden was just like, I saw them, it was 2020 when I went there. They weren't making any money on renting their house out because nobody would come. It was October and I was the first person to come all year. And I don't think anyone else came after me that year. They did better the next year. But when I went up they invited me up to their house for a dinner. They sang for me, and then, but they also, just going into their garden was just like a revelation. Their not garden, but property, because all this food was growing there. Every tree had nuts and fruit. They had goats and sheep and ducks and chickens. They were so self-sustaining. And I was just thinking, like, this is why Georgia has been very broke, has been very poor, but they don't starve because the land is so fertile here. So anyway, any of you are welcome to come. I will put an announcement out towards the end of the year, probably in September, October, to start people thinking about it. And, you know, you'll have to get together a bit of money to do it. But if you saw what I showed of the last one, you might be interested.
You need to switch your camera, Bern.
Oh, I thought you were saying me. I want to go. Me, I want to go.
Actually,
Okay.
I would love to go, but have you ever heard of celiac
But first,
disease?
switch your camera.
You ever heard of
Don't
celiac
you like
disease?
the board?
What's that?
Don't you like the board? Anyway.
I do love the board,
Beautiful.
but I like your face better. So
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. And I hope to see you in maybe May of 2025. I think Joe really wants to come. So, but yeah, the guys had such a good time who came. And I think that would be a very fascinating area to go to the next time.
yeah,
So,
I would go, but I have a problem called celiac disease, and I have a feeling there's not a word for that in Georgian.
well, yeah, but you can avoid that by not having floury goods.
True.
No one's going to force you to eat anything here. So
That's true.
if you go to someone's house and they have a lot of food on the table, just pick the meat and the vegetables. You know, if it looks like the vegetables are cooked in some sort of flour sauce, you know, you can deal with that.
Yeah.
To avoid them. But think about it.
But yeah, well, for sure. Sounds fat.
Real
I'd
quick,
love to
I'm
go.
gonna hop off. I'm gonna hop off here. I'll see you guys.
Okay, Caleb, it was good to officially meet you, and we will, I hope, meet again. Drobit. So,
Robit.
Farewell.
okay, so let's do this.
Back to the yeah, there we go. Back to the
The big
vertical
the big,
view.
No.
yeah.
So yeah. Oh yeah. So right before your computer crashed, did it
Yep.
crash again? No, you're still there. Okay, your head moved. Because the last time I don't want to jinx it. I was
I
going
just
to
kind of
say,
stayed there for a while.
have you heard of Freud's Last Session? I think.
Oh yeah. I've seen the preview for the movie, and I really want to see it, but I
Yeah.
haven't seen it. I'm waiting for physical media on it. So I just did my once a year Netflix month, and it's just like I can only do it for a month, and it's just like after a while it's like you're
Yeah.
eating food, and
Yeah.
just catch up and then kick it off again.
Too much
Yeah. What's that, Peter?
Did you see Freud's Last Session?
propaganda.
Oh, too much propaganda. In some cases, yeah. What was your question, Bern?
Did you see Freud's Last Session?
Well, I was thinking of actually going to the theater in a few minutes because the last showing of it in town is at 3:45.
Well, maybe you should go. So I don't know.
In a few minutes.
Go see it and write back to me. I'll be here again. We haven't got to the end yet. So.
That's true. We're closer. This is a good session. Remind the people, though, Bern, why we are here today, though.
Yes, we are here to make money to get my things. But I realize even when I get the $12,000, I've got the tickets now, the air tickets for Tbilisi to Paris and back. And that's June, sorry, not June, March 6th, and come back on, actually I come back on the 6th too. I said come back on the 4th, but actually it's a 3-day journey back because I'm going to have to stay in Athens for a day. But I think I've got a friend there. I think John Halley, who's come on the channel and talked before, is there. Yeah. So it'd be good to meet him. And, but yeah. But no, it won't. The actual plane won't arrive here until 5 in the morning on the 6th. So it'll be a whole month gone, which will be interesting.
Yeah.
So
I just thought of another question.
Yeah.
This might step on some toes. What's your least favorite city in Europe and in America that you've been in that you know?
Least favorite?
Yeah. Or worst?
Well, they're boring places.
Yeah.
Like I really don't. I have to visit friends in London and Berlin. I don't like either city particularly well anymore. I've seen them enough to go like, okay, this is here, but they don't. attract me. But they're not, you know, I don't dislike them either. You know,
Right.
there's just, you know, it's not, you know, we have our own, everyone has their own thing that interests them. Evidently, I liked Tbilisi, Georgia. So most people don't even know it exists.
True.
But I think as far as actively disliking, I'm trying to think. There are some places I think which would be really annoying. I mean, there's been some places where I've had strange experiences and such. But you know, that I probably didn't see the city that well. Like I was in Poznan, Poland, and I was staying in a hotel there, and whatever they were using to clean gave me allergies, and so I started breaking out, and I couldn't find the people I was looking for there. But nevertheless, I had an interesting time. It was like the first time ever in Poland, my first place, and I was just like trying to find where I was staying, and it was just a very strange time. But I think in another situation, I would probably like the place. It's a university town. You know, I was in Stuttgart briefly. Someone picked me up. Yeah, it was okay, but it didn't. Oh, Frankfurt. But that's because I stepped out of the train station. And, you know, if you've been to Frankfurt, you know what's outside the train station. It's not a pretty sight. But in America, I never want to go to Florida again.
Yeah, I get that. Absolutely.
I've been there twice.
Nothing in Florida, man.
And I remember we were driving out of there, and we had to go all the way across the Panhandle. I was doing a puppet show. We did one puppet show in the Orlando area. And someone who was helping me with the puppet show worked at Disney World. So for the second time in my life, I got to see Disney World for free. And I was so completely finished with it by the time I was on. I never want to go to this place again.
Yeah.
But just driving endlessly across the Florida Panhandle, because, you know, it's shaped like what am I doing here? Like this. So, you know, this part here is just, you know, it's just like, get me to Alabama, you know. And we got Mobile, Alabama, and that didn't look particularly good. And then we got to Louisiana, and I wanted to go to New Orleans, but unfortunately we didn't. But we ended up spending the night in a weird place that's in Louisiana that said it had a lake. But really what it was someone just went out with equipment and dug up a thing and then poured water in it. And so it was just brown. It wasn't really what you'd call a lake. It was like a bad brown pit. And the whole air smelled like sulfur.
Ooh.
And it was just like, what is this? But again, I didn't go to, you know, I recognize, there are other parts of this state. But no, Florida made me say, I've done Florida. I never have to go there again. I'd rather go to Mississippi. I'd rather go to Alabama. I'd rather go to Louisiana. I'd rather go to someplace really dark. You know. So.
Yeah, Florida is just, I mean, unless you're there for the tourism or the beaches or something, there's no that's what bothers me about it. There's no, I mean, there is history, but there's not much for some reason, you know. There's nothing to dig in there. Maybe because the soil is kind of shallow, you know, it's all swamp.
Yeah,
but
I didn't like Southern California for a long time growing up. But then again, I grew up a lot in Northern California. So there's a traditional Northern California versus Southern California, San Francisco Bay Area versus the Los Angeles area. But then in 2007, I went there, and I visited someone who lived in one of these old Spanish-style homes that was on a hill. And it really brought home the sense of what old Hollywood must have been like. It was a very interesting place. So suddenly I caught a glimpse of the history, which is something you normally don't catch in Los Angeles because it's so much a historical place. You know, it's designed not to have history. So,
in the sense of it being an event all the time, so that you are lost in all the events one moment after another, and so there is no historicity and periodicity.
Yeah. All there is the new.
All
And the
there is-
new gets ugly quickly when that's all there is. Or as I've come to realize lately, it's like so many people today are just selfies trying to get other selfies to like them. You know.
That's
So,
also
well,
an interesting thing, yes.
yeah. So it's about 25 after. That's 25 after midnight for me. So I'm starting to say I should get to sleep. But
Yeah.
I will be back. I'm not sure when. I'm certainly going to take tomorrow off. That's Friday, or actually today is Thursday because I'm already in your future. I'll probably take Thursday off. I might come back Friday evening if my friend Ucha leaves early. He's coming at 6 o'clock, so he might be gone by 10. I might come on again. We'll see. But thank you, both of you, for coming on. Makes my life easier here. And we have made money. We've got now to $1,500. We've got, thanks to Jill and Kenneth and who are those people? The anonymous person, Michael for something, David, and I think there may be someone else there. But anyway, thank you all so much for helping me. I can't express enough gratitude, so I won't. So that's,
Yes.
but I still have more to do. But it's getting close. It's getting close.
Yes.
All right. So both of you, auf Wiedersehen, toodles,
Well,
and we will catch you later. I'm going to play a piece of music, but I will be done by the time it's over. So draw a beat, everyone. We will meet again. Take care. Thank you for hanging out with me. I'm so glad Paul sent everyone over. How did that work? Was it Grim Grizz?
Something like that.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. And which piece here? Okay. Played that. Played that. I don't think I played. Okay. Did I play that one? No, I don't think so. So we'll try this one. And we'll be done when this is over. I interrupt the song. There's a bunch of stuff that came in that I didn't see over on the other channel. So let's get that out there. So Paul Vanderclay gave $30 US. Richard Lund gave another $100, and then Karen Laste gave $25. So what does all that add up to? Let me go over to the big board and deal with this. Well, hold on. I need to do some stuff here. Is anybody still there, or am I just talking to myself? Yeah, hold on. I'm not done. I've got stuff to do. Okay, so yeah, for some reason I missed all this stuff that was sitting there. It was that anonymous thing that it blinded me. I couldn't see any further. Okay, so that's 30 plus 100. Thanks again, Richard. Plus 25. Okay, so that's 155 more. Jeepers, that's a nice amount. So that means, okay, so we now need $1,345. Whoa, we're doing good. Thank you, all of you. So that's $135. Okay, so we only need now $1,345. And I am really grateful to all of you. I finally found that. Boy, what would happen if I, well, I would have found it later. Okay, so good night, everyone. Thank you for being with me. And what are we going to do? Say goodbye. We're done. Put a fork in me.